I got my second ad placement for my newsletter, and in this video, I want to talk more about how I got it, why I decided to go with them, and how it ended up looking inside the newsletter. For those of you who don't know, I write a newsletter called The Simple American, and it is a 1 minute read that is a quick daily news brief of the biggest things that happen in politics, economics, and business. The news brief is, like I mentioned before, a quick 1 minute read, and it is the biggest 8 to 12 things that happen in the day broken down into bullet point form. These points are written as unbiased as possible, and it's simply just to help inform people and update them quickly on what happened in the day and what happened in the world around them. I write my newsletter on Beehive, and Beehive is developing an ad network, which is awesome. So essentially what happens is inside Beehive, I get notified by companies that join the ad network or businesses that join the ad network that want to sponsor my newsletter. So for example, my first ad placement came from a company called Inspire Financial. They're a financial planning company. They saw that I write a newsletter about kind of politics, business, economics, and they're like, hey, this might be a good fit. I see that he has, about 13,500 subscribers. Let's reach out to him, try to get him to put an ad in our newsletter. When I get the notification that they're interested to sponsor my newsletter, I can accept it, and then I just simply have to put the ad placement in that's already created, or I can say, I don't really feel like they're a good fit for the newsletter and just move on and not accept it and not have to put it in there. So that's how the ad network works. And the ad network's growing, and it's great because every week you get an email of potential ad opportunities you might have. You're able to review them, look over the company, what they're about, and you can either accept or pass on them. So I put the first one in, which was from Inspire Financial, and I talked in a previous video about this, which I'll link in the description. I was very unhappy with how the ad placement did and kind of how it looked. What happens is you get an ad that's already been created. You can pick from a couple of the different formats that are made, but I wanted to be able to place it inside the newsletter where I wanted it. The way my newsletter is laid out is you come in and it starts off with the bullet points of news, and then it breaks off a little bit, and then I always add an interesting chart or social media post or graph or something interesting, and then I got my quote of the day and I sum up the newsletter quickly. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to put these ad placements after the news brief, like after the bullet points of news, right before my, interesting chart or graph or picture of the day or whatever that is, and before the end of the newsletter. So I wanted it in the middle. And I was okay to have at the very top of the newsletter, like as you open it up, to see, in partnership with and the company name. However, the first newsletter ad placement that I had from Inspire Financial, I either had to put the entire ad right at the top as you open the newsletter. So it was like you open it up and you see this pop in your face right away, and then you had to kind of scroll through it to get to the newsletter to get the news brief. Or I could put it at the very, very bottom. And it's like at the very, very bottom, it's not really like a high quality spot to put it because sometimes people don't scroll all the way down there and they're not going to look at it at the very bottom. However, I don't really like spamming my subscribers or having some ad right in their face the minute that they open the newsletter. So I didn't really like that I only had the option to put it at the very, very top as you open the newsletter or the very, very bottom. So I felt like that was kind of an issue for me. And then also I had this weird conspiracy, and I'm not able to prove if this is true or not, but because the ad placement for Inspire Financial was at the very top of my newsletter, I felt like the newsletter went into a lot of people's spam folders because my open rate and my click-through rate, my metrics for that from that newsletter that I sent out were significantly lower, like an outlier lower than my other newsletters that I've had recently done kind of that week and in the week previous. So I have this weird suspicion that because the ad was right at the top of the newsletter, it was going to people's spam for some reason. I can't prove it, but I have a weird feeling that was the case. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to back off from the ads. And I still was getting, ad inquiries. People were reaching out through the Beehive ad network, wanting to put an ad in my newsletter. And I was like, I'm only going to do it if one, I can put the ad exactly where I want it. And two, it's like a company that I like or interests me or something that I talk about in the newsletter. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing anything that wouldn't be a fit for my brand or what I talk about or anything like that. I'm not just putting an ad in there to put an ad in there because that's stupid in my opinion. So the second ad I got was from a company called Uniswap, and they are a decentralized cryptocurrency exchange that allows peer-to-peer trading of digital assets. I loved it right away. I was like, Uniswap looks really cool. I talk a lot about what's going on in the cryptocurrency world, in the Bitcoin space, etc. in my newsletter. So I was like, this seems like a good fit. Crypto, it's got to do with kind of finance, DeFi, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, this just seems like a good fit. Looked into the company looked cool. I was like, I'd love to advertise with them. I think this would be a solid partnership. So I'm going to take a minute, show you guys kind of what the ad looked like in my newsletter and kind of how happy I was with how it turned out. So this is how the ad looked, and this is why I was so much more happy with this, right? So you have the top of the newsletter, like the title of the newsletter, the subject line, and then it was like quick, in partnership with Uniswap. That's not a big deal. Like this is easy to do. It's right in your face. You know that I have a sponsor, but it allows you to get right into the newsletter. So then boom, I have my news brief here, and then here's the ad placement, the copy. This is all done for you, which is awesome. I literally just have to like drag it in there into the newsletter. Like this copy, like the logo, all the hyperlinks here are already in there, and it's quick and easy. So it looks great. It was right in the middle of my newsletter, and then I was able to get into my chart, graph, image that I put in there, and then sum up the newsletter. So I was so much happier that I was able to just have this little in partnership with Uniswap at the top, and then have the ad placement in the middle of the newsletter, which is where I've always wanted to put it. So in comparison, I want to show you guys what my first ad placement looked like now to give you kind of an idea. So the first ad placement looked like this, in partnership with Inspire Financial, and then boom, like this whole ad copy is right here as you get into the newsletter. I don't like that. I want people to open the newsletter and get right into this, get right into what happened in the day. I'm okay with having this little like logo here, but I didn't like the fact that this ad copy either had to be right here or it had to be at the very bottom, like right here, which is just not an ideal situation. So that was really the difference in the two ad placements I've done. Uniswap was awesome. The ad performed pretty well. I need to wait a little bit to get the full metrics of how it performed in terms of how much money I made, because that ad placement as well was not a flat fee. It was on a per click basis. So however many people clicked on it who opened my newsletter, I would get a fee of, I think it was $3.20. Don't quote me on that. It could be wrong, but it's always something like that. It's always between, I'd say all the ads I've gotten that people have reached out for have been between like $2 and $3.50. I think Uniswap was $3.20, I think. But it's something like that. And that's how it goes for those. Again, I've said this, in the long run, I want to be able to just do a flat fee when I have, an audience that's much larger and I can kind of be in a position where I do a flat fee. But for now, I'm okay with doing the per clicks if it's a company that I like, if it's a company that's interesting and it fits the newsletter and I'm able to put it where I want it. If I'm able to put it where I want it, like I was with the Uniswap ad, I'm good to do it. I'm good to make, $25 to $100 to put that ad in my newsletter. Like that's awesome. Like that's rewarding for me for like all the work I put into writing this newsletter every day. So that was the second ad placement I had for my newsletter. Again, it came from the Beehive Ad Network. The Beehive Ad Network is awesome. I would recommend, if people are starting a newsletter, just do it on Beehive. It's literally a one-stop shop for anything you need in the newsletter space. They are awesome. That's my second ad placement. Check out my newsletter. I'll link that in the description below. Thank you guys for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.